Good evening, everybody. Mike Jackman here for another edition of Jackman Radio, and I am joined by Jackman Radio alumni, returning guest, and friend of the program, the Info Warrior himself, Mr. Jason Bermas. How you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing well.
Good. Glad to hear it, and thanks for taking some time to talk to us tonight.
Absolutely.
So, boy, let's talk about the story that refuses to die. That's what everyone wants to hear about that. I'm sure you get a lot of messages about it. I know I do. I mean, you've probably been talking about the Jeffrey Epstein saga for the better part of 15 years or something like that?
Yeah.
10, 15?
Just a little bit over 15 years. I would imagine 2008, 9, when I first started doing the InfoWars thing. I was going on Jones back in 2006. But when he produced Fabled Enemies, and I went down to Texas, and I started substitute hosting over there really before even the InfoWars network, in the sense that it is today with all these shows existed. I was probably reporting on Epstein 2009, 2010 a lot. And now, I mean, up until this moment, and I hope these reports are untrue, I'm not one of those guys that jumps on the bandwagon of all the new information, or, like so many people jumped on that whole Trump birthday card letter. Oh, it's fake. It's fake. I'm like, you haven't even seen it yet. And they're publishing it. So maybe you want to wait. And now that I've seen that, I'm 80% sure, maybe even more than that is from Trump. I don't think he necessarily was the one that quote unquote wrote it.
Oh, totally. The scribble, that's him, Jason. I got to agree with you, Jason. I think it's real.
Well, I mean, I think that he actually drew the picture and signed it. You know what I mean? But as far as the little thing, I can see type up something nice about this, and then at the very end, yeah.
Well, here, let me do something here really quick that I don't usually do. And you've been to my place. I got something on my wall, guys, that goes back before the Epstein story. This is a signed photograph. It looks like his college portrait of one Donald Trump, way before he ever ran for president. And you can see the Dr. Scribe / earthquake looking seismograph autograph there. And I got to say, the scribble that's on the Epstein thing kind of looks a lot like that he put in
it's in black felt pen. If you look at some of the other things that he did in the past with the drawings of the buildings, black felt pen. I'm just saying, I waited. I've now seen it.
Sure.
And that's my judgment. The story I'm talking about is the idea that somehow, some way, Ghislaine Maxwell just achieved work release. Now,
that's the first time I'm hearing of this, Jason. Are you just breaking this on Jackman Radio?
I'm telling you right now that those reports are out there. There are a couple mainstream outlets that are speculating whether or not that is true. There is nothing official. That's why I'm not coming out and saying I'm outraged. But I certainly would be outraged if that was the case. We already know the machinations of power have moved her for a reason. That was not, coincidental to the fact that the DOJ also talked to her behind closed doors for 2 days, right? And the only reason that I believe that happened is because of the immense amount of pressure that the public has put on the administration after putting out that ridiculous letter from the Department of Justice. Also, regardless of all that, Ghislaine Maxwell is in the appeals process and was in the appeals process, and currently now in that appeals process all the way to the Supreme Court. And the interesting thing is that in this case especially, we don't have, Mike, in front of us this non-prosecution agreement that we know includes Ghislaine Maxwell. But officially, guess what? We don't know it includes Ghislaine Maxwell or any of these other co-conspirators.
Are you talking about from the 07-08 deal in Florida originally?
That is correct.
Okay.
Basically, we have media acknowledging that, yes, in fact, there is this agreement of non-prosecution with other cohorts of co-conspirators of Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell. The other speculative members are Sarah Palin, Leslie Groth, Adriana Ross, and then Nadia Marcinko, aka Nadia Marcinkova. There may be more than that. I would be shocked if, in fact, all of those people were not on that list. I think that they are, Mike, but there could be others. And so those people have still not been prosecuted. And every time that you hear the media going wild about a quote unquote list or files at this point, and I'm glad it has moved to the arena of files because there is no quote unquote client list. I think that you understand that and establish it. No one really mentions those names that I just mentioned. And the fact is, we could go to those people, and if there was some kind of judicial pressure on them, we could get to the upper echelons of some of the people that maybe participated in illegal activity with children and other things with Epstein. But that's not the goal. They want to subvert the idea of not only blackmail and intelligence work with Israel or the Central Intelligence Agency, but they certainly don't want to get into the financing of the arms industry, going all the way back into the 80s. Everybody goes, the island, the island, the island. How about multiple islands? He
bragged about having 2 islands.
He had 2 islands, and just from the little snippety snippet of whatever Bannon has, which is reported to be 15 hours of interviews, he refers to those islands of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
And we know factually that he was meeting with top-level scientists. It has been reported that he was into eugenics and transhumanism and the idea to seed the populace with immortal Epsteins. And I know, again, it sounds like cartoon level, but the big thing about that is no one really talks about Zorro Ranch either. It's the island. I never went to the island. No, there's multiple islands. And then Zorro Ranch, which, folks, if you think that these islands are secluded because they're, in the ocean, no, they're also surrounded by other islands and other rich people and boats that go through. Pretty secluded, but there are no boats out at Zorro Ranch. In fact, the best way that I could describe Zorro Ranch with a large helipad and an estate built around the main one where the Clintons reportedly had their own ranch. Okay, so they only had their own ranch house on this facility. Is it looks like something out of a mafioso's wet dream of driving somebody out into the desert, and a cross between that and an Area 51 sub base, because clearly there is something built. It is built on a hill on purpose. There is seriously some kind of lower facility under Zorro Ranch that has never been investigated. In fact, you can see close to it, there's another bump, and in the side of the mountain looks like an entranceway, much like he had on the island. If you look at the Rusty Shackelford videos of the island, it was clear that there were entrances to places that were underground on the island as well. So really, I mean, that's a mouthful, but that would really only scratch the surface if we just got into Epstein alone and those facilities of what he was up to. Because, again, the New York Times, what did they publish last week?
The New York residents.
Well, they published a lot of photographs that had been blacked out that we knew that the Department of Justice had from the raids, not only in Miami, but of New York, where he was, hobnobbing with the Saudi royalty that we had never seen before.
Wasn't there a photo of him and Bandar, or no, him and the young prince together?
Yes, the current prince. So what that tells me is, just like I've been trying to establish to people, that one of the reasons that he was so close to Prince Andrew amongst the royal family was because he was their arms dealer, right? But what did they find in that safe of Epstein's, where he's like, he got all these pictures with the Saudis? Well, they've got him with a passport to Saudi Arabia with a fake identity. So it's not like, hey, this was my business trip and I'm going as Jeffrey Epstein. No, I got a fake passport and a fake address of me being a Saudi Arabian. And this is what I've talked about for a very long time. And you know this because you've been around. but there is an Anglo-American Israeli-Saudi alliance. Okay.
Oh, the Safari Club going back to the 70s.
Yes. I mean, when you look at the Abraham Accords, if you look at the petrodollar, et cetera, it's all lumped in together. And with that is a ton of arms dealing, right? So we know that Epstein was managing money and funds for Adnan Khashoggi, who is one of the very unprosecuted members of the Iran-Contra clique, right? And what did Khashoggi do during that time period? He amassed his own harem as well. Donnie T, friend of the guy. And I just put it to people like this. Do you really think the Arab multimillionaire, perhaps billionaire, playboy arms dealer was recruiting all overage girls to be part of his harem? He always played by the rules of 18 and above when that wasn't even his culture's rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course not.
Of course not.
And let me tell you, Jason, I had a great deal on that yacht. Okay, I got a great deal on Khashoggi's yacht. Okay, he sold it to me for pennies on the dollar. I didn't even have to put cameras on it. Okay, I had Roy Cohn look at it, and he said it was a great deal.
Funny thing about that was one of Trump's worst investments. I think he picked it up. I looked it up. I think he picked it up for something. And don't quote me. This is not like Bermas on point. It could be, but go look it up yourself. I think it was $29 million or something he paid for it. And then in the bankruptcy, because he had these bankruptcies, he only got $21 million for it. Yeah, I think he actually lost about $8 million on that deal.
He lost on the deal.
But again, it establishes this arena that these people would all mix in together into. And let me give you another example of this. I don't know if you caught it, but the Jerusalem Post actually had an op-ed where the writer was bragging, essentially, that Israel was the reason that these files had leaked on Trump. So aside from the birthday photo, they had photos at his second wedding to Marla Maples, where Epstein was present. See, everybody loves to point to Ghislaine Maxwell showing up to Chelsea Clinton's wedding and all that. That's great. But they were also over at Trump's wedding. So we have to understand those things. And in it, he said, basically, after Trump decided that he was done after bombing Iran, Israel wasn't playing around, and they're the ones that leaked that. I'm not saying. Yeah, I did a
Jerusalem Post said that.
Well, we'll pull it up.
We do it live. We do it live, Ski and Hutch, right, Bermas?
Do it live. Yes, exactly.
Well, Bermas is pulling that up. I also want to point out that
do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I'm going to hit a button. We may make it. It may not. Let's see. Nope. See, wrong one.
Ooh, that's like that's a wilderness of mirrors right there.
Yes. Well, the thing is that I didn't restart the box beforehand, but that's okay. We're going to.
But you know what? While Jason's doing that, guys, I want to point out that Zorro Ranch that we were just talking about, I believe the outer perimeter of that was owned by the state of New Mexico or purchased and owned by one of the governors.
Well, it was surrounded by another really rich person, but you're thinking also that the governor of New Mexico was also very close to the Clintons, Bill Richardson, CFR, all of it.
Yeah.
So here it is, right here. And this, again, these are screenshots from the Times of Israel.
See if you can make that a little bigger. Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Trump and his administration criticized Netanyahu and Israel, and now the Epstein files are haunting him. For a long time, the files had subsided in the background. They weren't considered to be much of a threat to Trump. But all of a sudden, right after he started up with Israel, the files surfaced, and they seem to be overwhelming him. Then he goes on to say this. And now some old files are threatening him. Perhaps Trump will realize that it really doesn't pay to start up with Israel. Because when, by divine providence, things that were hidden now become revealed, it enables people to correct their mistakes and to endeavor to their lives purposely the way God wants them to. So he also invokes God on that one. I would say this.
Jason, enigmas never age. Have you ever noticed that enigmas never age?
The other big circle that they're all involved in is the beauty pageant scene and the model scene. Okay. Yeah. And when we're talking about Epstein in particular, a lot of people don't know this, some Epstein trivia. But when they originally wanted to arrest him in Palm Beach, they almost did so at a beauty pageant where Epstein was judging.
No kidding.
Yes, but they didn't. They decided, there's paperwork on it and everything. They decided not to because they didn't want to disrupt the beauty pageant. Now, this week also, Melania Trump has won in court on that story that had been circulating for some time, where Epstein supposedly had introduced Trump to Melania with this like model party that seemed to be for wife number 3. At least that's how it was framed, like meeting 20 models in Trump. And when we're talking about beauty pageants, Trump, of course, Miss Teen USA. If you want to talk about Les Wexner and L Brands, I mean, where do you think they're recruiting most of these models?
I definitely do. Yeah, I want to talk about Leon Black, and I want to talk about Glenn Dubin as well. Those are names that are not mentioned in the media nearly enough. But sorry, continue your point.
Yeah, well, the other person that I would incorporate into that group that's no longer with us and was charged for sex crimes in another country would be Jean-Luc Brunel.
Yeah.
Very much a bridge between Epstein and Wexner, although they had a direct relationship as well. You know, Brunel is also running models and fashion, where Epstein, although he would tell people, you know, like he was, you know, a model recruiter or this and that, never had any kind of formal roles in that regard. But do you really need formal roles when Les Wexner is giving you maybe the most valuable private property in the middle of Manhattan?
And power of attorney?
Power of attorney too, yeah. I mean, they're you know, and just because you mentioned Dubin, Glenn Dubin, billionaire, rich wife as well. When we talk about the Epstein files, and these files already exist and are out there.
They do. Virginia Giuffre said that she testified that she had to massage Glenn Dubin's wife when she was pregnant, Ava Dubin, right? And she was at their residence.
Yes. And the other thing about Dubin is he's the one I believe that is mentioned with, I think it's a Jane Doe. I don't think that we have the name of this victim. But this victim woke up on the island. Dubin's there, all, you know, freaking out because they weren't on the island when they were, you know, drugged or whatever. They had their license taken away from them. I think that what was or identification. I forget how young this girl was, but I believe I think it was the passport that was taken away because she was so young. She was 14, I believe, in the thing. You know what? Let's do it live again. Let's see if we can go to like DuckDuckGo because I'm sure Google won't give it to me. Yeah, but we'll try some DuckDuckGo.
This may have been the Swedish girl or a foreign girl, right? Who was there who didn't speak English that well, and
I think that is correct.
The cook or the chef saw her crying in the kitchen and shaking like a leaf.
Yes. 14-year-old girl Epstein. Let's see what we get. And
then before that comes up, back to Jean-Luc Brunel, he supposedly gifted, and this is disgusting, Epstein twins or triplets for his birthday. That story. Well, sorry, what?
Again, very possible. It looks like 15-year-old girl is what let's see. Yes, 15. So yeah, I don't like getting things wrong.
No, we want to be accurate, but you know, a lot of some of these billionaires, this is how they view the rest of us. This is how they view people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and girls that don't have their parents and they don't have guardians looking after them, or they came from, like in Florida. I mean, Epstein was going after targeting girls who were from these backgrounds, and he knew they didn't have a father, or they didn't have their parents, or they were neglected, or they were already. He could probably already tell that they were already victims of abuse, like Virginia Giuffre was before she ever even met Epstein.
And again, from what I understand, what Nick Bryan has shared with me, with someone like Virginia Giuffre Roberts, she'd been sexually assaulted since she was 7 years old.
Right.
Like a lifetime of abuse, even before Epstein, and she was really primed. He also believes that she had alters, and I think that is more than likely, for those that don't know what an alter is, when you've been traumatically and physically assaulted by adults for so long, We used to call it split personality disorder, but to
Right.
deal with that trauma, you literally tuck these personalities and compartmentalize them so that when you are conscious as quote unquote yourself, you don't have to deal with them. Right. And I think that's one of the ways she was able to get out of it. If you look at it, out of what we're told is over 1,000 victims, right? I think we had a few hundred victims
At least. Yeah.
in the Palm Beach case.
Just Florida alone.
Yeah. And it's weird because I see Michael Tracy out there, who I've respected some of his work, like attacking Whitney Webb and these kind of numbers. I would suggest to Tracy, in the Palm Beach case, a lot of the girls that were interviewed on video. I think there's over 20 plus victims on video alone with their faces blurred out, describing how they were recruited or involved. So, not everybody's testimony is going to be released. Not everybody is even going to testify as a victim, right? Like that's the other big thing. So, you're looking at a long, long period of time that this happened. I would say, again, people should probably familiarize themselves with the case because at the heart of it, Epstein is a serial pedophile, right? And yes, he's obviously directing these girls to certain individuals to either curry favor with them on some kind of a business deal. Again, I talked about Prince Andrew being an arms dealer, right?
Right.
Probably where she comes from, Virginia Giuffre Roberts. And then also, if they don't want to play along, to blackmail them. And it's not just, children that he could have used. I mean, if somebody's got a wife, right, it's pretty easy just to blackmail them with somebody who might be overage as well.
Bill Gates. I mean, Belinda Gates said that the divorce was stemmed from Bill Gates' association with Epstein, and she didn't go too far into detail into that, but you can surmise because we know that Gates cheated on her in the year 2000 with one of his underlings at his company, and that was probably of age. But I mean, why was Bill Gates hanging out with Epstein? He doesn't need help raising money. He doesn't need money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. And then there's that dollar bill that's autographed by Bill Gates. Did you see that in the?
Those new pictures?
Yeah.
Again, doesn't shock me. Gates gets extremely uncomfortable anytime Epstein is brought up, I think for good reason.
Well, he's dead. Remember that clip of him on PBS laughing about him being dead like a super villain, super billionaire, New World Order, a needle pushing pimp that he is.
Well, the interesting thing about that, well, he's dead, and then he goes and he says, well, it shows you always need to be careful. So, yeah, you need to be careful. Okay, well, that's not what I was expecting you to say, but all right. Obviously, when we talk about the transhumanism aspect and these type of technologies, I think that's where Gates comes into play. A lot of these emerging technologies that now we've seen, mRNA and otherwise, but literally bio nanotech, CRISPR tech, I really believe that's what they were meeting with. And I also think they were probably meeting on how to set up these kind of pseudo benevolent organizations, because Gates had a lot of success with that, Gavi and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations, for money laundering purposes. So they wouldn't be taxed, so they could fund these things. I mean, Epstein, I remember this story I reported on years ago when it came out, and a lot of people have forgotten about this. But like I said, he's a serial pedophile. Some of these charities would have camps, and one of them was like this young girls camp that he ran the charity with Elton John, I believe. Elton John was a part of the charity as well.
Elton John's tied into it somewhere too, Bermas. I know you were reported on that 5-6 years ago, and yeah. And you posted earlier how a lot of your stuff's been censored over the years on this, Jason. Can you elaborate on that? Well, I got to run to the bathroom really quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I will. And the other thing I was going to say about that charity is that Epstein had a residence at the charity camp. He had his own little cabin. Isn't that nice? One of the people that I see now in the news talking about Epstein would be Annie Farmer. And I've seen some attacks on Annie Farmer so far. Annie Farmer is somebody who was underage, has won in court. Luckily, wasn't a repeat victim of Epstein or even to the caliber of like full on sexual assault, comparatively to others, minor. But I think that's one of the reasons that she's able to talk and others aren't. The large scale thing I think that people need to realize about this case is I don't know that we're ever going to get the full truth about this case because people would demand, indictments, prosecutions, and successful punishments, especially because of the child's aspect of this. But you're also kind of exposing the fact that our intelligence community, that we've been sold under the good guys all the time, and we have a certain idea of what a quote-unquote spy is, right? Like, we've got this James Bond kind of Johnny nonsense idea in our head, and when you peel the layers back and you look at who the real James Bonds or Jason Bournes are, it's not Matt Damon or Daniel Craig or Sean Connery. No, it's Jeffrey Epstein. And it's somebody that's working with the banking industry, and they're abusing children, and they're involved in the drug trade, and then most horrifically, the arms trade. Do you really think that that's going to come out? No, of course not. And you've compromised the current president, right? Even if you don't believe, and I don't believe that they have anything on him in the sense that he was with children, right? I think that we've got people that have come out in the past with lawsuits. The Katie Johnson lawsuit.
2016 Katie Johnson. What do you make of that?
So this is what I always tell people. Whenever I bring Katie Johnson up, I say, look, you don't even just have to read about it. You can go online, and I show people the link to Katie Johnson telling her story for about 30 minutes while her face is blurred out, right?
And she's wearing a wig, too.
I think everything's pretty. I think the one thing that you can make out is she's a white girl. Other than that, I don't know that you could make anything else out about her. And I listened to the story.
That's not her real name either, I don't think.
No, as far as I know, it's not. What I would say is this, that was, it came up twice in court. Okay. It was brought up twice, and twice Trump was able to get rid of it. Now, the details of how he was able to get rid of it and whether anybody was paid off, that's never really been made public. Right. And I don't know that it is. However, I would say if there was something super nefarious there, that would have leaked. And then the story overall is kind of like this eyes wide shut type party, right? Like, I don't know if you've listened to the story, but like.
I have, Jason, and supposedly she was threatened, and that's why she backed down. And was she connected to Gloria Allred, though? Was she with her at that time? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's a tough one for me, but the whole vibe of that story,
it's early 90s in Epstein's mansion, right? 92, 93 in his mansion in New York is kind of where it happened.
Yes, but
according to the
yeah, at the same time, it isn't like it's just Trump, and Trump really does in that sense, as at least that I've seen, he doesn't mind the outward like red carpet party with his girls, right? But other than that, he's very private. You know what I mean? And there were other people, he dated Playboy models and all these other kind of girls, and obviously, I believe he had sex with Stormy Daniels, and
and Karen McDougal.
Yeah, there seemed to be some payments even before the re-scandal. The whole had to wear a glove thing, and I get it, like he is kind of a germaphobe.
That sounds a little on the nose, doesn't it?
I mean, I don't know if it's on the nose or just too far. Like everything seems so random. Like even the way he approached her, he's in like the suit and the whole nine, and it's basically you're just kind of walloping your Johnson out there.
Well, look, even without that, Jason,
it's not possible. I'm just saying, like, if it had been something where, the story was at one of these competitions, right? And an introduction through Epstein, and then something later happened at a different address that wasn't Epstein's house or someone else, I think it would have been more believable to me. And I'm not even saying that I totally dismiss it. I'm just saying I didn't buy it hook, line, and sinker, right? Whereas when I saw like the 50th birthday party thing, and I knew that other people had given, like, we still haven't seen the whatever Bill Clinton wrote there, right? And
he talked about some stuff that was less than appropriate too. Bill Clinton did, and then you got Woody Allen basically talking about how Epstein was like Dracula with 3 young vampiresses and beauties. I mean, that's been published. That letter from Woody Allen. I don't know if you read that. It looked like it was written on a typewriter.
Again, I haven't seen that one either, but it looked like it looks like the birthday book is real.
Mm-hmm.
And all those things are real. This, I don't know. But it doesn't, any way you look at it, it doesn't make it look good that they were flying on planes together, that they were very friendly with one another.
Well, just the stuff that's already out there, Jason, the clips of him on Howard Stern, him talking about dating Ivanka. I mean, that's weird. Okay. And then the clip of him, I own the beauty pageant, so I get to go backstage and nobody else does. And I get to say, oh, how's everybody doing? And I poke my head in, and there's girls in various states of dress. And Jason, let's be honest, we are talking about girls at that point who were probably like 16, 17. I mean, obviously
14, 15. It's
over age too. But The Guardian did do a great piece about the early 90s. It was called First Look or something. I forget what the name of it was. And there was that other guy. He has since died of cancer. That was connected to those beauty pageants.
Claude Hadid, perhaps?
Not Claude. No, not him. I'll have to put it out there, but I'll have to look it up and put it out there. But it's still, the 90s was the time of the supermodel, and David Copperfield's name comes up big time in that story. And there's certainly been accusations against him. So, people ask me all the time, like, do you think Trump is doing this because he's covering the fact that he did XYZ? And I think what's out there publicly is like embarrassing enough. You know what I'm saying? And there might be other. I go back to Cindy McCain's quote where she said everybody knew what Epstein was doing, knew who he was, what he was doing. So I find it hard to believe that Trump had no idea the entire time what Epstein was all about and what he was doing.
Well,
so at the very least, that could be embarrassing, and I'm not saying compromising, but come on.
Just kind of speaking to you're talking about that generation. We have to remember, in the 70s, Steven Tyler, the lead singer of Aerosmith to this day, that I see in my
Roman Polanski.
Steven Tyler got the parents to sign off on a 15-year-old girl.
The guys from Led Zeppelin, the dude from Led Zeppelin had a girl living with him who was underage.
And it's not just rock and roll. Let's take it a little further. You talked about 80s, 90s. Karl Malone has a slew of illegitimate children, some of which he later had to acknowledge because they became professional athletes.
Not the mailman, Bermas. Don't tell me the mailman.
Oh, the mailman's daughter, I believe, that's in the WNBA, I think she's in. The mother was 12. So, yikes. I mean, these things are real. Like,
they are real, Bermas. They are.
Have gotten away with this for a very, very long time. And especially when you are a certain social status, I don't bring it up much, but I remember, and this is just small town stuff, I graduated with 54 kids, okay? Graduated with 54 kids. This is how small town this is. And the daughter of the superintendent of our school, not even the principal, but the superintendent of the 2 little schools that we were in, clearly was sleeping with her basketball coach, who was also a teacher. I remember he had knocked his wife up, and after she had graduated from senior year, the girl was like riding around with the guy's baby with the wife at his home. Mike, he had on the fireplace mantle a picture of both the superintendent's daughter and his wife up there. So it was no shock when that same year after she had graduated, they did get caught sleeping together when she was 18. They swore nothing was going on when she was 17, even though it really did appear that way. And he's a local politician in my town.
He's small potatoes.
And that's small potatoes, my friend.
So think about the billionaire class, which you have so eloquently talked about, Bermas, for all these years. They can get people to do whatever they want when they want. They can compromise people. And you know what? They get bored sometimes. They've had everything, right? So why are movies like Hostel and Hostel 2 made? They showing what they do to poor backpackers or poor people who from these villages in Eastern Europe that have no other means of doing anything or discourse. And look what they end up getting brought into. So, I for people like you and I who just come from working class backgrounds, it's hard for us to really fathom in our own lives, people behaving like this. But time and time again, the stories have been borne out. I mean, the third in line from power, the longest serving Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert, was already that way before he became a politician, before he was in Congress, I would argue. He was a gym coach. So, but a lot of people don't know about that, Bermas. So, people are kind of like, wow, I don't believe it. It's not there. There'd be more of the news about it. And kind of circling back to the Epstein story, I want to bring up Donald Barr, and you've reported on Donald Barr, and he wrote a book in 1973 called Space Relations. And I bet you have a copy of that book.
I've been looking for one. I do not have a heart. I'm poor right now. I'm looking for work. Anybody want to hire Jason Bermas to run his mouth?
Anybody who's not a billionaire wants to hire us. Don't make me do weird things and put bananas and grapes on my head, but we'll come do it.
Yeah, I mean, when by hire me, I mean that just means put my stuff out and let me run my mouth on the internet for a living. And in fact, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I would be segueing, but let's talk Donald Barr just for a second. So Donald Barr, again, apparently, allegedly, and there's been some people that have tried to say, "Oh, this isn't the case," but he seems to be the link of Epstein and the Dalton School. He's running the Dalton School when Epstein gets hired. And for those that don't know, Epstein, who doesn't have a degree in anything, gets hired as a math teacher at this school, supposedly by Donald Barr, the father of Bill Barr, who is lifelong intelligence because his father was intelligence. And I think a lot of people don't get is that academia at those upper echelons is intelligence, right? That's why Harvard is so integrated. I just did a show about Vanderbilt University and their partnership now with.
Where is Vanderbilt, Jason?
I think Vanderbilt University, I want to say the university is in New York, but I've been to Vanderbilt Mansion, which is in New York. 100%.
Good Shepherd does a great job covering that type of thing. That movie, Good Shepherd, directed by Robert De Niro.
Amazing movie.
Amazing movie. I got to say, one of Robert De Niro's last great films, in my opinion. It goes Heat, then Good Shepherd.
And De Niro actually directed that one, too. So that gives him some kudos on that. But that showed you, really, how, you talked about the university system, right? Before intelligence was intelligence, it was that blue blood university system. Skull and Bones in particular is what they feature there, because the vast majority of these people that were brought into the OSS and then the CIA were Skull and Bones. But essentially, since the 1800s, they were utilizing places like Yale and Princeton and the best and brightest of that elitist class as these secret societies. So, you have to put that into play and understand that system. And that's another reason why Epstein was into academia and all these other philanthropic groups.
Jason, he had an office at Harvard.
Yes.
I have to show. This reminds me. I have to share and show something right now, really quick, before I forget. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna love this. Okay. And we can comment on this. Can everybody see it?
Remember me from Epstein Island?
Oh,
it's Lolita.
it's Lolita.
It's Lolita, everybody.
This is what the vineyard has become. Would you like a pierogi?
Can you put it in my mouth? Is it true that you said the reasonable
You don't understand.
age of consent is 15? You didn't ignore me on Epstein Island.
It's important that the public. You don't think this constitutes harassment?
Officer, I'm with him.
Sir,
We're together.
I've been advised that he feels harassed by you. I am requesting that you give him some space and stop that.
Am I being detained?
Not at this time.
Okay. No, thank you.
This man is calling me an anti-Zionist.
Excuse me, this man is a saint. God damn. Long hair problems. Officer, I was wondering if you could help me. Does this dress make my ass look big?
Okay, so that is that is a clip of a guy in Martha's Vineyard harassing Alan Dershowitz, who was a longtime Harvard professor, a lawyer for O.J. Simpson, and wrote pieces calling for the age of consent to be lowered to like 14 or 15 or something like that. So not only did he do that's part of his CV and his resume, Bermas, he was Epstein's lawyer, helped him secure the quote-unquote sweetheart deal, wrote on the Lolita Express multiple times, says he got a massage, but it was from an old lady who was frumpy in her 40s, and I kept my pants on. And here and let me tell you, Bermas, Eric and I got friends in Martha's Vineyard, and right now, they said on the island, that is a meme going on, and Dershowitz can't go anywhere without being hassled like that. Your take on that?
Doesn't shock me. I mean, it's kind of the chicken's coming home to roost for Dershowitz. No matter what you think about Alan Dershowitz, I mean, he's a very smart and talented lawyer. He's also Trump's lawyer during the impeachment.
He's a great guy.
I mean, there was no reason for Trump to bring him into the team, obviously. It's funny. I got to talk to Dershowitz's, I wouldn't call him an authorized biographer, but he was the biographer that Dershowitz did give him interviews and gave him great access to. And a really young guy, I think he was like 20, 21 years old, that had written this book. He'd even interviewed OJ before OJ died about Dershowitz. Interviewed Dershowitz's brother, who was estranged and didn't like his brother. He had kind of a take on Dershowitz that, you know, not only did he like the media, he liked being around these rich and powerful people that were more powerful than him. The biographer did tell me that when he asked him what his largest regret was, Dershowitz did say being involved with anything Epstein. That should let people know how far this has gone. I mean, this story's not going anywhere. On my way back from going to drop the kid off today, there's a billboard now, one of those electric billboards where it's got the picture of Trump and Epstein together. And it had something about Marionette Miller Meeks, my Republican senator. Like, that's how far this is not going away. So
in Iowa. Oh, in Iowa.
And I went to go snap it while I was driving, but it changed to the next thing, and then the light turned, so I didn't get it. I'm going to try to get a picture of it, maybe even do a video on it. But Dershowitz, here was another really, and I think this is Dershowitz maybe putting out a little disinfo on behalf of Les Wexner, because look, Dershowitz was accused by Virginia Giuffre Roberts of improper shenanigans, but Dershowitz won in court. And I've seen those emails that call into question what exactly Virginia was doing.
Well, did she retract it?
She lost. So,
okay, she lost.
So okay. Yeah, no, she lost the case. She dropped the charges. So it went in with, I believe, Dershowitz suing her first, and then her countersuing, and then Dershowitz winning, and then her suit being dropped. Okay. And Dershowitz was also representing Les Wexner at the time, and Wexner won as well. As far as, you know, those cases go, Dershowitz claimed to the biographer, and again, I didn't hear Dershowitz say this, but it seems like running a little interference. He claimed that one of the things that the rumor was, the reason Epstein had something over Les Wexner was that they had a homosexual relationship together, and that Epstein was going to blackmail him on that. That sounds a little far-fetched to me, but then again, I don't really know the sexual proclivities of Les Wexner. And even if, you know, Jeffrey Epstein, that doesn't seem like his thing, if you are trained in espionage,
F it, a mouth's a mouth. I'm going to go back to Chappelle on that one.
I mean, my radar on that one, I think that is Dershowitz running interference for the fact that I think that Les Wexner obviously had some role in a lot of these intelligence operations.
Of course he did.
If you look at the Air America stuff. And
how about the other thing he was running with, that guy that got caught a couple years ago, and it was boys, It was like, well, it was Boys of Age. Was it L Brands or what was the other?
Talking about the Abercrombie and Fitch guy. Yeah,
Abercrombie and Fitch. Was Wexner not an owner and funder of that as well?
I think that there was some kind of financial ties, but I don't think he was a direct owner. It was the other owner, because I don't think that he was an owner. They may have done some business together.
But more importantly, to the Zionist cause, Bermas, Wexner was involved with promoting the Iraq War.
Big time.
A lot of people don't know that, don't understand that.
Yes. And I think Frank Luntz is the one that wrote the Wexner report that I'm about to discuss. And
that's when Luntz got a great hairpiece that year. His hairpiece is unbelievable, Jason. You should see that thing. It's like mine. It's like half Cecil the Lion, half Pepe Le Pew. It's incredible.
It's funny. I was watching the old school Penn and Teller bullshit show, if you remember that show.
I do. They took on 9/11 at one point. Didn't they take you guys on, Loose Change?
We weren't in there, but they did shit all over the 9/11 truth movement. Like that's a show that I think about half of it gets right, and the other half is Johnny nonsense. But I always enjoyed it. And they were basically doing one on polling. So they had Frank Luntz on, and they have, Luntz has given away a lot of the trade secrets of how he's able to kind of manipulate answers to sway and, ask certain questions. And he's outside talking to somebody while they're filming, and your car just drives by. It's like, fuck you, Luntz. And this was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. So it made me kind of smile. You know what I mean?
He's a big Republican shill back in. Wasn't he a George W. Bush lackey or?
Well, he's very much in promoting things like the Iraq War. And like, if you see this white paper that was written up, essentially the premise is this: Saddam Hussein has now been captured. Mission accomplished was already stated in Afghanistan. And now with the Iraq thing, people are going to want to leave, but we don't want them to leave we want a permanent U.S. military presence here.
We want we want John McCain's surge. We want the surge is working, Jason. The surge, my friends. I was tortured for 6 years, my friends. Al-Qaeda, Iraq, torture, Iran, my friends. That was back during that era. John McCain. Did you see our last podcast we did, actually, speaking of 9/11, we had a couple of review videos done by some other 9/11 researchers who have been on my show, Adam Fitzgerald and Nelson Martins. Did you see those? They have some disagreements with you on 9/11, Jason.
Who's this?
Adam Fitzgerald, who I think has
yeah. I know
he's a great researcher. He's a friend of our show, and I think he's picked up the mantle for Paul Thompson in terms of just like raw data and doing really great 9/11 stuff. And then Nelson's DJ Thermal Detonator, who's publicly a little bit caustic, is confrontational, and has disagreements. I don't know. They picked apart our whole last pod. I think the last time you were on, we talked about. We mentioned Flight 93. I forget what we mentioned exactly, but
okay.
Anyways, ahead of the anniversary, I'd love to have you guys on to have a discussion.
I mean, I'd be up for it. I mean, I think that Fitzgerald doesn't think that there's any controlled demolitions, right? Like,
no, I think he's open to it, but he's more of the geopolitical and more of the historical.
Mean, if you get down with Building 7, I just really question, what your intentions and motivations are, because it's just so obvious. And then as far as I remember on the thermal detonator guy, he is a controlled demolition guy, but he's with the DEW kind of thing, right?
I'm not really sure on that. I think they're open to it, but they look at more of the other stuff going on. And they've been on the show. I'm friends with those guys. We don't agree on everything, but I would love to host a discussion next month for the anniversary.
I mean,
something civilized where it could be back and forth.
I mean, I'm not against it. Like I said, I know that I've got at least one thing on the 11th booked. I think in the afternoon, evening. But otherwise, listen, I as long as people want to present evidence, I'm fine with that. But again, like I'm sure if we're going to rehash the Pentagon, like for me, again, I've never given any definitives on the Pentagon, and like as far as what happened there, I've never said it was a missile or a drone. I highly doubt that, any of these planes that were utilized in the attack were the planes that they said they were in the first place. And I believe even that recent documentary, I don't know if you've seen it yet, on United 23, kind of proves that.
Oh, the TMZ one, yeah, where there was other planes that were going to go that had hijackers and they had box cutters and knives that were
they just said
the backs of seats, right?
Weapons. So
Weapons.
Everything there is speculation on what those weapons were. But I hearken all the way back to when the Dark Overlord, back in 2018 now. Think about that, 7 years ago, released those.
And they didn't release everything, right, Jason? For Dark Overlord, they only went, 1 or 2 or 3 steps out of...
3 layers out of 5. They got the Bitcoin ransom on the first layer. They didn't get the full Bitcoin ransom on the second layer. And then they decided to release the third layer, and then a bunch of them were arrested. And that's all we ever found out. And then the 4th and 5th layer, I mean, they're downloaded, but if you don't have the codes...
It's there somewhere.
Yes.
I think the umbrage. I think the umbrage is Flight 93. They think that Flight 93 did in fact crash there in Pennsylvania, and there's there's discrepancies. I mean, I think one of the dudes on Flight 93 was connected to Mossad through an uncle and a cousin, and it was.
That I don't know. I know that there was talks, again, like going back to the Dark Overlord documents on Flight 11, just because you were bringing up the box cutters and the knives. Someone got shot. There was a report of someone being shot.
That was reported.
For the first time during those documents, we know the person who took the call and reported that. And I had not seen that anywhere. And, one of the reasons I bring up United 23, because the way that they identified these hijackers, for instance, is with United 93. A lot of it was with the debris, right? And then the identifications that were found on passports that made it through the World Trade Center. Okay?
The charred passport from Shaitan or Satan or whatever his name was.
Yeah, and remember, Atta's luggage doesn't make the connecting flight. And then the same kind of luggage that has the Quran and the flight manuals and the Atta stuff is the same kind of stuff that they find in the left behind luggage of United 23. But then later that evening, they do have an FBI lineup of the suspects that everybody thought were going to be the hijackers, and none of those suspects are in the lineup. And then they say they can't find these people who should have been in the lineup because they were using false identification.
Is that the one that Robert Mueller was part of, where Robert Mueller did the press conference, the former FBI head at the time?
No, this was all revealed in the United 93 or United 23 documentary. So for the longest time, I had never known what exactly happened to the crew and supposedly the individuals from that flight. But apparently, all of those individuals, from the pilot to the stewardess to one woman that didn't even want to be on camera, basically said that they were brought in and they were shown a lineup of people, but none of those people, and they had a child on that plane.
Right. And I've asked Adam Fitzgerald about this, and he wasn't surprised because they would be willing to do something that savage, because there were actually children that did die on the flights. I think as young as a 2-year-old on one of the flights. And I guess my point is, I respect all you guys are all friends of mine. I've known you for almost 20 years. I've known Adam and Nelson. I've known Nelson. Nelson was at Cooper Union almost 20 years ago. And I've known Adam for a long time. He's a New York guy. I'd love to host a discussion with all of us, and I want it to be civil, and I'd love to hash all of it out, because I think there's still a lot of interest in that. Especially,
like I said, I'm totally down. Let's figure it out. But let me just show you, like, again, for Flight 93, for people, again, for as cartoon level as this is to me, and it's cartoon level, they presented this as evidence for the quote unquote movie. And let me explain what this is.
They had CC Lyle's rewards card too.
I mean, listen, you can make an argument, for instance, that maybe some luggage got untouched or whatever, an ID made it and it wasn't burned and it was in this, and that's why. That's supposedly a bandana that was worn by the hijackers as they attacked.
Right.
And it's not on someone's head. It doesn't have any
crisp.
blood, sweat, burn marks on it.
It's crisp.
Crisp. I mean, I look at it and I don't even know how you present this thing in court, man. I mean, you look at this thing and there it is. It tells you the exhibit number. And then you realize, I mean, it's just a red bandana, but then the Hollywood version, they've got the bandana as, not that kind of bandana, and it has the inscription of some kind of, Muslim jihadi thing on it.
Wasn't it supposed to be green originally?
I remember red, but it's not like I have, an insurmountable memory. Flight 93, you look at that debris pattern, the 1.5 miles away from Indian Lake, and then the 8 miles away in New Baltimore over a mountain ridge. I'm just sorry. There's, that little scathing hole. I mean, I have the FBI, I think, on either the 5th or the 10th or maybe even the 15th anniversary, some special. I remember I played it last couple of years.
I've seen that clip you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Where they're just recounting it and they're talking about when they got there. None of them thought a plane crash had happened. Can you imagine being an FBI agent and you get to a plane crash and they're like, there's no plane crash? And it's not just, the coroner said that originally.
Right. Wally Miller, but he also went on the record to say I was taken out of context and
Sure.
Because this thing was going 500 miles an hour and it was being crashed in a way that planes don't usually crash because they try to save the plane, they try to land it. And I mean, I know it was like a weird upside down. And the thing is, they still haven't released the actual Bermas. They have not released the audio, right? Of the flight data recorder. Have they ever released all the audio?
I don't know that they've even acknowledged. I think they acknowledged they found one flight data recorder on that one because they dug it out and they showed that they may have presented it in court. But I don't think that we have. From what I understand, even at the World Trade Center, they denied finding all the flight data recorders. I mean, there's so much on the bone for 9/11. Forget about the Epstein files. I want them as well.
I want to go back to that. But yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about this because, you've been on this for a long time.
A lot of people say, well, Trump promised us the Epstein files. No, he didn't. In fact, when he was asked by Fox News prior to the
I'd be very careful about that because a lot of it's fake and there's stuff in there that was planted by the Democrats.
Even before he got into the planted by the Democrats line, he got asked about RFK, MLK, and JFK. Still waiting on the MLK documents. I don't think we really got all of the JFK nor RFK documents.
No. A lot of the JFK stuff we already knew that was already out there.
Most of it, but again, I haven't combed through it. There is this reference by James Garrison, in a old school Playboy interview of all things, where he references a document about Oswald. That is a Central Intelligence Agency document that supposedly isn't going to be declassified till 2038. Well, we haven't seen that document either. And that, again, was Garrison in an interview all the way back, I think, in the 60s. So anybody can go check that out. And the 9/11 stuff we were also promised. In that same little breath, he said 9/11. He said yes. He didn't hesitate. He hesitated on Epstein. He did. Said, well, I don't know, maybe. He goes, but definitely the other stuff. 9/11 is what we need. We know guys like Anthony Schaefer have had talks with that administration. And the bottom line is that's the big one. And I know it didn't touch the world culturally in the same zeitgeist that Epstein did. But I think that's a lot of the pre-programming where there was never really any massive pre-programming that Epstein was the greatest guy in the world, right? Like it wasn't like we knew who he was before the scandal. The pre-programming on 9/11 and the Arab and terrorism threat is decades. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think with the 9/11 stuff, I mean, Trump met with the families. I had Brett Eagleson on my show, whose father died in the towers, and Brett's about my age, and he said Trump's very aware of this, the stuff with the Saudi lawsuit and everything that's going on, and the fact that they're still in discovery or trying to get information out there. So,
well, I don't say this. about Trump and 9/11, even before this second run, when he was at that Live Golf Tournament, which is the new Saudi Arabian golf tournament. He gets asked about the Saudi and 9/11 connection, and he goes, "Nobody's really investigated that. It's a shame. We should have gotten to the bottom of it." Well, you have the opportunity now, sir.
He's president now. He's President Bermas. Now he's president, and he was for 4 years before. So, exactly. But I think, you know what? Here's my theory. I'm throwing this out there for everybody. I think that it was not a coincidence that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and died during Trump's first term. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I don't think it's a coincidence that William Barr was the attorney general.
Yeah, no, Bill Barr has never been your friend. I was warning people. You know it as well as I do. You know, I was just getting back into the alternative media arena full time with We Are Change, etc. And the QAnon stuff was starting to take off, and people were sending me that, and they were talking about secret indictments, and they were talking about going to jail for Russian bullshit. Well, I mean, people were actually talking about Mueller secretly working for Trump, and I'm like, Bob Mueller was the cover-up crew in 9/11, and I'm like, Bill Barr was and Bill Barr and Mueller had a relationship for decades before Russiagate. They actually worked together through the Justice Department during the Iran-Contra period when Noriega all of a sudden became the bad guy. And remember,
and before that, Bermas, Bill Barr was in the CIA from 1971 to 1977.
Started his career in the Central Intelligence Agency before he even passed the bar exam and became a lawyer. And then he was so incorporated into the Central Intelligence Agency that he became the youngest attorney general ever under George CIA Bush, HW, the old man. Okay. Right. All these things should have been huge red flags for people. But do I think this administration is better? Yes. You know, I think that Tulsi Gabbard is much better. You know, I think she really struggled with this whole Iran situation as well. She should have. What's that? What's the one?
That's Tulsi. That's my girl, Tulsi.
Yes. And look, as far as this administration goes, there's been some stumbling, and you got to keep continually calling them out for their Johnny nonsense. But the two shining stars, at least in some regard, in my opinion, in this administration, they've been RFK Jr., they've been Tulsi Gabbard. The Overton window has moved on so many things that we have not had the ability to talk about for decades.
Amen, brother.
From the shots to the Middle Eastern aggression. One thing I will say about Trump is I don't think he's bloodthirsty. I think that he is in a situation where he doesn't know exactly what to do. At the same time, you can't have the type of arms market that we have and not at least look the other way.
Do you think Netanyahu has anything on Trump?
No, I don't think he particularly does. I think that Netanyahu, I think Israel's going to do what Israel wants to do. And unfortunately, the only power that's even going to rein that in on any level is going to be the United States. And we see how that's worked out. The problem is, while the United States has some political figures, and it's very minutia of political figures speaking out against it, we've been allied for so long, and it's the same kind of people that would speak out against something like the Iraq War. You know, we're talking about a consistent foreign policy that we've carried out as well. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like we've got to look in the mirror. Like how do we stand on the high ground? And when I tell people about,
I agree, Bermas.
I mean, it's very hard to do so. I don't know that you can when our country doesn't, like, I'm telling you right now, 99 out of 100 people, maybe even more than that. If I were to take out a map and I were to point to Yemen and say, where is this? Not only could they not tell me it's Yemen, but they would have no idea how involved we've been militarily there and how there's a literal genocide going on there as well and a starvation going on there as well. And it's our drones and our targets. And then I'll guarantee they won't know that the United States Special Forces were on the ground on October 7th in Israel, and that we sent special forces there immediately. And again, they won't know that when we're talking about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, that kicked out, it's the U.S. military and our cohorts that are aligned with NATO that are in other European nations directing that war.
Bermas, even the New York Times has had to admit that we had the U.S. at least U.S. intelligence was there.
I mean, we had troops on the ground too. I'm telling you right now. Now, a lot of mercenary groups, but special forces, that's what they do. Mr. Jackman, I have another engagement. We've been going for an hour plus. I wish that we could do more.
Let's do it again sooner than later.
Absolutely. Just get at me. We'll definitely schedule something. I want to thank you.
Let's do a 9/11 anniversary discussion with those guys too, man. I would love to hash that out because they message me, you know, about that. They do review videos for when I talk to you about 9/11, and I respect their work, and obviously I respect your work. So I would love to facilitate that discussion.
All right, sounds good to me.
Absolutely, guys. That's Jason Bermas. He's been in the game a long time. You know, go over to you're on Buy Me a Coffee. Where can people help? Where can people look up your stuff, Bermas, and support you?
5 years. We are growing on YouTube. First time in 5 years. We've been literally stagnant. We are now at an all-time high of we're on the verge of 74,000 subscribers. And before that, we were maxed out at just around under 73 5 years ago, and no growth whatsoever. For whatever reason, we are able to grow again. And I am able to get videos, even though the vast majority of my videos don't do well, now getting back into like the tens of thousands. Kurt Metzger, thank you so much.
Hell yeah. Dude, when Kurt came on your show with the wig, I would love to have Kurt on, dude. That was everything.
Kurt's fun, man.
Did you see where him and Dave Smith were on stage together and Kurt got into an altercation with Louis J. Gomez? Did you ever see that?
No, I don't even know who's Louis J. Gomez.
He's Legion of Skanks.
Oh,
he's a comedian. Yeah.
I do know what the Legion of Skanks are. I know Big J. Okerson and all that. So, listen, that's another thing, man. I don't try to take myself too seriously.
I don't either. I'm a clown.
I like going to comedy shows. I like going to rock shows. I just saw Ice Nine Kills this weekend.
I saw that they're doing a horror convention in Worcester, Massachusetts in September, where they have the cast of Scream coming.
Great show. I saw them. They had, first of all, they had 3 openers. Who was it? It was My Funeral Portrait, Kim Dracula, and Dayseeker. All of them put on good shows. But then after 3 other acts at a kind of local smaller show, probably like 2,000-3,000 person venue, they played for 90 minutes with one of the best stage shows I've seen in a while. Full energy, great times, fun times.
And we're both Limp Bizkit fans. I'm going to close with that. We will expound on that next time. Jason, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll do it again soon, everybody. That is Jason Bermas. We'll see you next time.